Not bad, huh? Hi, this is Dave from Free Run Speed. In the middle of a 30-mile run, 30 or maybe 35 miles. It's about 8 o'clock in the morning and it's beautiful. We're 1/3 down. And today I'm going to talk about the Hoka One Bondi. The Bondi 7 from Hoka One. This is the #1 selling shoe for the brand, and I get it. It's totally understandable why this shoe does so well. On the midsole, we got 37 millimeters in the heel, 33 millimeters in the forefoot. That gives you a 4 millimeter offset. On the women's side, it's still the same 4 millimeter offset, but it's 31 millimeters in the heel and 27 millimeters in the forefoot. Just probably to take some of the weight out of the shoe. Weight on the men's, it's 11.4 ounces or 323 grams. And on the women's, it's 8.9 ounces or 252 grams. If you go back in the history of Hoka One, it's really the Bondi that set it on the course that it is right now. The Bondi was the shoe that came out that was so different from every other running shoe out there on the market that once people tried it, they raved about it. And what makes it the shoe so unique? Obviously, the first thing that stands out with the Bondi is the stack height. 37-33. There's a lot of midsole under your foot. The second thing that stands out is the wrap. So your foot is not sitting up here on top of this shoe. You're sitting almost, not quite as far down, but almost where this paint ends. And yes, that's paint. That's not a separate piece of EVA. And so you sit deep into this wrap. And so although this is a neutral shoe, it is incredibly stable because you sit inside that wrap. And then the last piece is this incredibly wide base under your foot. This is the widest base of any running shoe on the market. So you've got the stack height, you've got the wrap, and then you've got this really wide base. And you can't really judge the wide base looking at this shoe on its own. So let me give you a comparison. So this is the Bondi 7 compared to the Saucony Shift. And I think if you just look at the base, it's 5 to 7 millimeters wider at the base than the Saucony. That's pretty dramatic. And that's just in the forefoot. The Bondi, it's the same all the way around. So you get that huge, wide base from heel to forefoot. The other thing that made this shoe super unique was the meta rocker. The shoe does not flex, or it barely flexes. Your foot simply rolls over the meta rocker instead of flexes through like a typical running shoe. And then I think finally, this shoe is just unbelievably soft. So your foot actually, or at least my foot, sinks down into that midsole like no other shoe. The upper has an engineered mesh, which the Bondi 6 had. They're giving the appearance that it is an open weave mesh, but there's a backing on that. So I don't think this shoe's that much more open or more breathable than the Bondi 6. These overlays, they're welded on to give the upper some structure. It's just a different design of overlay than what was on the Bondi 6, but the Bondi 6 had those. And this heel piece is almost identical to the Bondi 6. It's possible they put a little bit more padding back here. And it's nice. The fit is actually super nice. I can understand why some of my friends who wear orthotics use this shoe. They pull out the insole, put their orthotic in, and now it's the super stable shoe that they used to run in. I totally get why this shoe is what it is, why it's so popular. You got to think about it. When this shoe first came out, what was driving the market? Minimalism. So people were being told, go out and run barefoot or go out and put these minimalist shoes on, and all your pain and suffering in running will go away. That's essentially what they said. And it didn't happen. In fact, you could argue more pain and suffering happened. So this was the anti-minimalist shoe, and people flocked to it. Triathletes flocked to it. Because if you think about it, 2/3 of triathletes weren't runners to begin with. And so running kind of sucks. Put the Bondi on, it doesn't suck as much, that's for sure. And then finally, on the Bondi 7 itself, it is their number one selling shoe. And that's because I'm going to go with the 80-20 rule. And I'm totally wrong on my number, but I can't be off by much. But I'm going to bet 80% of the people that buy this shoe are not running in it. They're buying it because it is just darn comfortable, and because of their plantar fasciitis or whatever the reason is, whatever pain they're dealing with, this shoe takes it away. And so it is by far the number one airport shoe. Specifically here in the United States, the Bondi is the number one shoe. The 20% of people that are running in the shoe run in it because it takes something away that is painful in running. Maybe it's knees that were sore. Maybe it's feet that were sore. But for whatever reason, that's why they went to the Bondi in the first place, and that's why they stay with the Bondi, because knees aren't sore running in the Bondi. Plain and simple. I'm not suggesting that this is an answer to knees that hurt. I'm suggesting that's why people got into it in the first place. I'm going to admit this shoe was not built for me. It feels like a heavy box on my foot. The fit, I get it. It's good. It's really good, but it's a little bit too much for me. You can see right here that I pull the laces in tight. So the fit, the shoes seem kind of roomy to me. The weight, 11.4 ounces, and I'm not a super, shoes got to be ultra lightweight, but the weight along with just the mass under my foot seems like a lot of work to run in this shoe for me. But I will tell you, I'm going to run 30 mile, I'm going to do 30 mile runs. And maybe the next day when I go out for a 3 or 4 mile run, I'm going to put this shoe on just because the run will feel better. Going down hills, it won't hurt. Having this much under your foot actually feels good when your body's sore and tired. So I think this is going to be a great recovery shoe. So someone asked me to do a comparison between the Bondi and the Shift. So I did that. I ran a couple miles in the Bondi, Came home, put on the shift, went out for a couple more miles. In my opinion, for me, they're not the same shoe. And there's a clear difference between 11.4 ounces and 10.4 ounces. That's a noticeable difference. The Bondi runs heavier because there's so much more shoe under your foot that even if they found a way to make this 10.4 ounces, it would still feel heavier than the shift because there's that much more shoe under you. And softer shoes, really soft shoes like this, tend to feel heavier. The protection under the foot. So when you're running, I'm going to use the downhill as the example, but running downhill, the protection is pretty equal. This one is soft and you don't feel the road. This one is kind of firm and you don't feel the road. So I think that's the same. But just the overall feel of the two shoes is not even close. You got the super wide base. You don't have the super wide base. The fit here for, I think, my foot and for a lot of feet is just going to be more streamlined than here. Does that make this a better shoe? For certain runners, it does. But if you've been in the Bondi and the Bondi's worked and you don't have any issues, you don't have any injury issues, pain issues, you might pull this one out for race day. You might pull this one out for tempo day. But you're always going to come back to the Bondi, plain and simple, because it's that unique. There's just more shoe under your foot here than here.